Would you pay $250,000 for a window seat? In space? It might sound like science fiction, but in 2025, space tourism is no longer a distant dream. It's a booming industry that's already sent celebrities, billionaires, and even tourists beyond Earth's atmosphere. The race to make vacationing in orbit a reality is accelerating fast, and not just for the ultra-rich. From space hotels in development to rockets that launch, land and relaunch again, the era of commercial space travel is unfolding right now. Welcome to the dawn of space tourism, where private companies are racing to turn the final frontier into the ultimate luxury getaway. But how close are we really to vacationing in orbit? Let's break it down. I can't wait. First up at 1, from science fiction to space reservations. Not long ago, space travel was exclusive to government astronauts with years of training, but in 2021, that all changed. A few key milestones. Blue Origin, founded by Jeff Bezos, launched the first all-civilian crew into suborbital space with its New Shepard rocket. SpaceX under Elon Musk took things further with Inspiration 4, the world's first orbital mission crewed entirely by civilians. Virgin Galactic, led by Richard Branson, brought suborbital flights to the public, promising space tourism for the wealthy leisure traveller. Note the word wealthy. These weren't one-off stunts, they were proof of concept. Commercial spaceflight is real, and it's expanding fast. Now in 2025, several space tourism companies are already offering bookings, test flights, and even wait lists for future orbital vacations. This is no longer just hype, it's a competitive industry with billions invested and an emerging customer base hungry to leave Earth, even if it's just for a few minutes. Next up at 2, suborbital versus orbital. What's the difference? Not all space flights are created equal. To understand what you're really getting when you buy a space ticket, we need to talk about suborbital versus orbital travel. Suborbital flights. These brief trips reach the edge of space, around 80 to 100 kilometers altitude, offering a few minutes of weightlessness and an incredible view of Earth's curvature. Flights last about 10 to 15 minutes, often compared to an extreme roller coaster ride with a space twist. Examples: Blue Origin's New Shepard and Virgin Galactic's VSS Unity. Orbital flights. These involve reaching full Earth orbit, around 400 kilometers above, where you stay in space for several hours to days and complete full revolutions around the Earth. Orbital flights require more powerful rockets, longer training, and more complex logistics, but they offer a true astronaut experience. Example: SpaceX Crew Dragon missions, which have sent tourists to orbit for 3+ days. In short, suborbital is like touching space, orbital is like living in it. And yes, both are now available, if you can afford it. Which begs the million-dollar question, so to speak. At 3, how much does space travel cost in 2025? Let's talk price, because while the dream of space tourism is becoming more real, it's still very expensive. Current ticket costs. Virgin Galactic, $450,000 per seat for a 90-minute suborbital experience. Really? Blue Origin, undisclosed, but auctions and estimates put it between $250,000 to $1 million per passenger. And then there's SpaceX. Orbital missions like Inspiration 4 or the upcoming Polaris program expect to pay $50 million plus. Even with high prices, demand is strong. Virgin Galactic has over 800 people on its waiting list. Blue Origin has flown multiple paying customers with some repeat interest. SpaceX is preparing multi-day commercial orbital trips, including a private mission to the International Space Station. But here's the key: prices are expected to drop over the next decade. Why? Because like any new technology, from smartphones to airline travel, mass production and innovation drive costs down. Elon Musk has even hinted that future point-to-point Earth flights via space could cost less than business class someday. At 4, it's the next frontier, space hotels and orbital vacations. You've heard of 5-star resorts, but what about zero-gravity hotels? Believe it or not, companies are already designing the first space hotels. The most ambitious is Orbital Assembly Corporation, which plans to launch the Voyager station, a rotating space hotel that simulates gravity and hosts up to 400 guests by the early 2030s. Planned amenities include sleeping pods with space views. What else? Onboard restaurants, recreation and fitness areas, zero-gravity games and entertainment. While the timeline is ambitious, construction of modules and tests have already begun. Another project, Starlab, backed by NASA and private partners, aims to replace the International Space Station and serve tourists and researchers alike. If successful, this could be the first time that ordinary people, albeit very wealthy ones, could spend multiple nights in orbit with some comfort. In the meantime, shorter duration orbital trips, like those offered by XTREME Space, are already taking reservations to the ISS itself, with SpaceX as the launch provider. Next up at 5, is space tourism safe? A question I'd like to know. With any new form of travel, safety is a major concern, and spaceflight is still inherently risky. Rocket launches involve extreme forces, precision engineering, and zero room for error. While the industry boasts solid early safety records, it hasn't been perfect. Virgin Galactic's test flight crashed in 2014, killing one pilot. Blue Origin experienced a booster failure in 2022, though no one was hurt. SpaceX's development has seen multiple explosive tests of new spacecraft. That said, every incident leads to stricter safety protocols, better technology, and more careful vetting. In 2025, commercial providers are under heavy scrutiny from FAA and international regulators. Passengers undergo training, learn emergency procedures, and face medical screenings before flying. Still, the question remains, is it too early to open space to tourists, or are we witnessing the safest generation of rockets ever built? Time and testing will tell. Alright, at 6, who's going to space right now? When space travel opened to civilians, many thought it would be limited to billionaires and celebrities, and for the most part, that's still true in 2025. But there's a growing push to diversify who gets to fly. Here's who's gone so far. William Shatner, yes, Captain Kirk, flew on Blue Origin at age 90, becoming the oldest person in space. Yusaku Miyazawa, a Japanese fashion billionaire, bought an entire SpaceX mission to the moon, inviting artists and creators to join him, the Dear Moon Project. Inspiration 4 sent a medical assistant, a teacher, and a data engineer alongside a billionaire into orbit, showcasing the potential for ordinary people to go. And in 2025, SpaceX's Polaris Dawn is training a crew for spacewalks and orbital science experiments, again involving civilians. XTREME Space is training tourists to stay on the ISS, offering a 10-day orbital package that includes astronaut-style prep. The passenger profile is evolving, from tech CEOs to teachers, from aging stars to young scientists. The dream of going to space is starting to feel less fictional. Still, the selection process is intense. Physical screenings, training, simulations, and psychological evaluations are often required, especially for orbital missions. But as technology improves, safety increases, and more companies enter the scene. The barriers to entry are gradually falling. At 7, will space tourism change Earth travel? The irony of space tourism is that by leaving Earth, we may begin to value it more deeply. Many astronauts talk about the overview effect, a profound psychological shift after seeing the planet from orbit. Looking down on Earth, borders disappear, conflicts seem petty, and a shared sense of responsibility emerges. Imagine if thousands or even millions could have that experience. But even before space becomes mainstream, it's already influencing Earth travel. Luxury tourism is evolving. What was once a private island or underwater suite is now being replaced with zero-gravity getaways. Imagine that. Aerospace companies are developing high-altitude, stratospheric flights that offer space-like views without going into orbit. And there's rising interest in sustainability. If we're going to escape Earth for leisure, shouldn't we protect it first? That idea of looking outward to appreciate inward is becoming a powerful narrative in travel, education, and environmentalism. Next up, at 8, the cultural impact of space travel. Beyond the science and spectacle, space tourism is starting to change how we think about identity, borders, and even possibility. We've already seen artists, musicians, and influencers shaping their work around space experiences. Students and STEM initiatives inspired by real footage from civilian space flights. Even religious leaders and philosophers weighing in on what it means for the soul to leave the planet. As more people fly to space, the psychological and cultural effects will ripple across society. It may not be long before weddings are held in orbit, birthdays are celebrated in low gravity, or even travel influencers review space hotels on YouTube. Space is no longer just the domain of astronauts, it's becoming a destination, and like every destination, it's shaping the people who go there, and the cultures they return to. And finally, at 9, when will space tourism be mainstream? The big question, when does this go from millionaire playground to mass market reality? Here's what experts are projecting. By 2030, suborbital flights may drop below $100,000 per person, putting them in reach for upper-middle-class travelers and influencers. By 2040, the goal is to offer Earth-to-Earth suborbital flights, meaning you could fly from New York to Tokyo in under an hour by briefly exiting the atmosphere. By 2050, if current investment and tech trends hold, we could see space hotels, moon flybys, and even longer stays in orbit for under $10,000. Of course, all this hinges on continued safety improvements, massive cost reductions, strong regulatory frameworks, and public confidence in the technology. In the meantime, space travel will likely follow the trajectory of air travel, once a luxury for the rich, soon to become a normal part of human mobility. Space tourism in 2025 isn't science fiction anymore, it's early reality. While still pricey and exclusive, you can say that again, the infrastructure is being built, the demand is rising, and the dream of vacationing in orbit is closer than ever. A wedding, though. From 15-minute suborbital hops to multi-day orbital stays, we're on the cusp of a new era of travel, one that could change not just where we go, but how we see the world. So, are we ready to become a multi-planet species? Or at least multi-atmosphere tourists? That journey has already begun. Would you ever take a space vacation if it was safe and affordable? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this glimpse into the future of travel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. We've got more out of this world content coming your way. See you in the next one, whether it's on Earth or above it.